The wind screamed across the desolate plains of Tarka 7, carrying with it ash memories and the last whispers of a dying world. The sun, swollen and red, hung low in the sky, bathing everything in a crimson hue. Once, this world had teemed with life. Blue oceans, lush forests, cities that stretched to the heavens. Now, only ruins and dust remained. Kirill crouched beside the skeletal remains of what had once been a fruit tree, its gnarled limbs blackened by radiation storms. Her lavender skin was streaked with soot, and her luminous silver eyes scanned the horizon for movement. Nothing. There was never anything anymore. She was alone. Her people, the Ilyari, had fled 2 cycles ago when the star began its final phase of expansion. The great evacuation ships rose into the sky, carrying millions to safer systems. Kirill had been left behind. Not by accident but by decree. She was born sickly, smaller than the others, a burden in a race that valued strength, perfection, and utility above all else. There had been a brief outcry from her younger sibling, a whimper of protest from her grandmother. But no one fought for her. They simply turned their backs and boarded the ships. She had watched the last vessel rise into the heavens, trailing fire like a false god ascending, and she had screamed until her throat bled. Now, 2 cycles later, she wandered the husk of her home world with nothing but a tattered satchel and the faint hope that she might one day find a way off this cursed rock. The sky cracked. Kirill froze, heart pounding. A streak of light descended rapidly, leaving a burning trail in its wake. Ship. It wasn't one of hers. The Ilyari ships were sleek and silent. This one was clunky, blocky, trailing black smoke and spiraling out of control. It smashed into the foothills to the west, a distant boom echoing seconds later. Kirill hesitated. Logic said to stay away. Crash sites attracted scavengers, beasts, or worse, the planet's last automated defense drones. But something deep within her stirred. A whisper. Maybe this is your way out. She sprinted across the broken landscape, dodging collapsed structures and leaping over molten crevices left by the planet's tectonic seizures. As she neared the crash site, smoke stung her eyes and the acrid scent of burning metal and fuel filled her nostrils. The ship, if it could still be called that, was a mess of twisted alloy and shattered panels. Fire hissed in small pockets along its hull, and pieces of it littered the surrounding rocks like shrapnel from a dying god. Then she heard it. A groan. She slipped into the wreckage carefully, crawling over beams and ducking under sparking wires until she reached what looked like the cockpit. And there, slumped in a harness, was a creature she'd only ever seen in archived footage. Human. He was unconscious, his head lolling forward, a trail of blood trickling from his temple. His suit was torn, one arm clearly broken, but his chest rose and fell with labored breaths. Kirill had never met a human in person. They were legends to the Ilyari. Violent, emotional, unpredictable, but terrifyingly persistent. It was said they had survived countless extinction events, clawing their way back every time. And here one was, stranded on the same dying world she was trapped on. She reached out tentatively, fingers brushing against his cheek. His eyes snapped open. Deep brown. Alert. Worry. "Who are you?" he rasped, then winced. Kirill blinked. I'm Kirill." He frowned. "You speak galactic standard." "Yes. And you crashed. Your arm is broken." He coughed a dry laugh. "Yeah, I noticed." She pulled a strip of cloth from her satchel and moved to bind his arm. He didn't stop her. "Name's Mason," he grunted through gritted teeth. "Scout pilot. Got pulled out of hyperspace by a gravity anomaly. Didn't expect this place." "Most don't," she murmured. They sat in silence for a moment, The only sounds the crackling of fire and the groaning of the ruined ship. "How long have you been here?" Mason finally asked. "2 cycles. Alone." His brow furrowed. "Jesus." Kirill shrugged, trying to appear unaffected. "I've learned how to survive." Mason looked around the wreckage. "Well, you just got promoted. Think you can help me survive too?" A slow smile crept onto her face, the first in months. "Yes." Over the following weeks, the two worked together to salvage what they could from the wreck. Kirill showed Mason the water reservoirs hidden beneath the old cities and taught him how to spot the underground fruit fungi that still grew in shaded caves. In return, Mason taught her how to use the human tech he managed to salvage: scanners, rudimentary energy weapons, and a short-range distress beacon he was slowly repairing. Kirill found herself laughing again. Real, full-bodied laughter. Mason, despite his rough appearance and sarcastic tone, was kind. He never looked at her with pity. He never called her broken. He asked about her, listened to her, told her stories of Earth. Oceans of blue, green forests, snow-covered mountains, cities filled with music and food. Sounded like magic. Sometimes at night, Kirill would sit beside the flickering fire and watch him as he stared up at the stars. His expression both hopeful and haunted. "You think they'll come?" she asked one evening. "They have to," he replied, holding up the half-repaired beacon. "They'll track the signal eventually. And if they don't," he turned to her, "then we build a bigger one." But hope, like all things on Tarka 7, was fragile. One morning, a low drone filled the air. Kirill and Mason bolted from their shelter just in time to see a sleek Ilyari scout ship descending. Mason stepped forward, hopeful. "Your people." Kirill's blood ran cold. "They're not here to help." The ship landed and out stepped 2 tall, armored Ilyari. They scanned the area, eyes locking onto Kirill. "You are in violation," one of them said coldly. "You were not authorized to survive." Mason moved in front of her. "Back off." The Ilyari tilted their heads. "A human. Curious. Still interfering where you don't belong." Kirill stepped forward. "Leave him out of this. I'm the one you came for. You were deemed unfit. You had no value." "I found value," she said, standing straighter. "He showed me. I survived because I deserved to." The second Ilyari reached for a weapon. Mason raised his salvaged blaster. "Try it." It was a standoff. And then Kirill did the unexpected. She raised her arms. "I am not afraid of you. Kill me if you must. But know this human saved me. You left me for dead, and he gave me hope." The Ilyari paused. Then, without a word, they turned and boarded their ship. Moments later it was gone. Mason stared. What the hell just happened? Kirill let out a shaky breath. I think they realized they were wrong." 3 weeks later, a human recovery vessel pierced the atmosphere. The beacon had worked. As they ascended into orbit, Kirill looked down at the shrinking world below, once her prison, now just a scarred memory. Mason nudged her. "So, ever been to Earth?" She smiled. "Not yet." He grinned. "You'll love it. Oceans. It's a dogs. Dogs. Oh, just wait." As the ship jumped into hyperspace, Kirill took one last look at Mason and whispered, "Thank you for finding me." He chuckled. "Nah. You were the one who found me, remember?"